Hi, my name is Doris Carlton. I am the First Lady at the Temple of Healing Waters, better known as Healing H2O here in Dulles, Virginia. I want to talk to you today a little bit about our Lifejacket 501c3 nonprofit arm of our ministry, where we're committed to abating homelessness and hunger here in Loudoun County, Virginia, and also internationally abroad. This year, we want to invite you to partner with us for our Red Sunday initiative, which we do here. We feed our hungry in our community, and our goal is always to feed at least 500 people in the month of December during the Christmas season. But also wanted to share with you Carol's Love, which is our international missions effort, where we feed those who are hungry and living impoverished in Haitian refugee camps in the Dominican Republic. And now I'd like to share with you a segment that I did with Virginia Living Television that talks all about Lifejacket, our 501c3 nonprofit, and especially our Carol's Love arm, where we feed those who are hungry in the Dominican Republic.
I want to hear, because I love all the things that you're doing. You talked earlier about the Caribbean and our local community. Tell me about Carol's Love.
Carol's Love, we talk about stuff being birthed out of dark places. It was interesting that I have to always preface this because I refer to her as my aunt. Okay. But I think one of the miracles is that this woman, from the time I was born until her death, which was about 3 years ago, just adopted me as her own. She never had children. Her mom and my mom's mom, the families grew up next to each other. Her mom had a family of 10 kids. My mom's mom had a family of 7 kids, and so that's kind of how the relationship began. My mom being a single parent, Carol kind of just came in whenever she needed help. My mom had to work and couldn't be with me. She was just always there. She never said no. So grew up with this woman who I refer to as my aunt, but really as I look back and really began to think about it, I said, what a miracle that I had a Carol. Yeah. And I talk about her all the time like that I had a Carol, that I had someone who wasn't blood kin to me, but who just adopted me and was sold out, so much so that she wanted me to be successful. She just poured so much into me, and so It was 4 years ago when I went to a doctor's appointment with her in July, and she had been having trouble walking, and she was very fit, good health. I worked at the University of Maryland and would park and try to get to her office, and it would take her a long time, and she was in pain. Yeah. So went in for a routine doctor's visit, and the doctor instructed her that she wanted her to get an x-ray, and it was at that point that she saw, the doctor, that there was a hole in her bone, in her left leg. So my aunt was very, very concerned, and so I went with her on her first doctor's visit, and I'll never forget the doctor pretty much pronouncing that there was nothing good gonna come of it. And I remember as a believer saying, how can you be so sure? And he said, oh, well, I've seen this so many times. Anytime there's a hole that big in a bone, it's just not good. It took a year for my aunt to pass. And during the year, I said God was truly working on me and working on her, because my aunt had pretty much turned her back on church and on God.
Because of
a history in her childhood.
Okay.
And so someone in the church had damaged her and hurt her, which I didn't realize until
she
much
had
later.
lived this whole way.
Yes.
Okay.
So here's someone who really was an angel, who was truly sent by God and being used of God, but who wasn't churched, who didn't go to church, who really wasn't a believer. And so the Lord, I believe, allowed me 12 months of caring for her and being with her and really being able to, I know that she knew before that I loved her, and I know that she knew before that what I stood for, and that I was married to a preacher, but I think it was through those 12 months where I was really able to prove to her who God was.
Yeah, and you were able to pour
in the flesh.
Pour back.
I was able to really prove, and so it was a very emotional roller coaster, because there were times during the 12 months where I was like, yes, she's healed, she's doing better, she was walking, and there were other times I'd go and be like, okay, what's going on? Things had gone down, and anybody who's experienced cancer, it can be very,
So
very,
it was bone cancer.
Bone cancer, yes. And so we went through chemo, we went through radiation, and then finally, by July of the following year, she had passed. But one of the amazing things as I look back, because for me, I was very selfish in that I'm praying, God, heal her, prove yourself strong to her, and so what God really did in that is he proves himself so strong to me. And it was through her death. I went, she had a 24-hour nurse at that time, and she had called me and she said, your aunt just passed. And it was interesting because my husband was out of town and I had the kids. And so I just rallied everybody up and we drove over, cross country, I call it, but from Virginia to Maryland, which can feel like cross country, and we drove over. And I remember I sat with her alone until the coroners came. It was the first time I'd ever been with someone who had died, who had been that close to. And I remember as I sat with her, I was just self-reflecting on so much.
Oh, I'm about to cry.
It just, and it's funny because, there are different things that happen in life that really prove to you who God is.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those God moments where I was able to just sit with her, and there was such a peace in the room that I had never experienced before with her. And God just began to share with me some of her qualities that all of us really should have, and how unselfish she was, and how she had so much but looked like she had so little, and just how she was so content with just the basics, she's just one of those people. And so as I was self-reflecting and on my drive home, God spoke so profoundly to me that I needed to be a Carol. And not just to my children, because that's easy. So often we can bless people we love or who are family, or bless people who bless us.
Right.
Oh, she gave me a gift, I can give her a gift. But really called me at that moment to go and be a blessing to people who, if I did not do it, they would not eat. If I did not clothe them, they would not have clothes. And so that's kind of the quick
how that birthed.
So
what are you doing down in
the Dominican Republic?
So now we go annually. This year was my second time going to actual. We feed, and I have several locations that I feed in, but one of the main locations that I've adopted is called Esperanza, and it means hope. And what's interesting is I didn't know that until this trip. And one of the pastors who's partnered with us there, who pastors there, told us. And I said, wow, isn't that amazing? Here I am, bringing hope to hope.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, bringing hope to hope. And so every year we go, I do fundraising leading up, and my goal is to feed. And so this year we were able to, in that particular location, we were able to feed 500 children. But during the entire stay there, we were able to feed this year almost 1,000 kids. And that was such a miracle.
So are you going back next summer?
We're going back every August. We're going to travel back, and I have a huge goal this time of feeding 2,000. I said every year I want to try to at least double.
So
I was going to say, so if someone wanted to help in that process of getting you down there, how would they contact you? How do they do that?
We're actually on social media, so
H2O.
Healing H2O. Actually, Carol's Love is under our nonprofit Lifejacket. So we have a nonprofit that isn't associated with the church that's called Lifejacket, and we do a whole lot of missions through that. Carol's Love falls under our Lifejacket initiative. So
you feed 500 every day, every week?
No, actually, my goal this time going was to do 500, and we did almost 1,000. And so what we did is in one particular location called Esperanza, we went, and it's a Haitian refugee camp. And so if you know anything about the island, Dominican is connected to Haiti. Haiti is one side of the island and Dominican is the other. But what I found with traveling there and visiting is that many of the Haitians that come to Dominican come for a better life, even though the Dominican is so impoverished itself, but it's not as poor as Haiti. But once they get there, the children aren't afforded an education because they're not citizens. And so what you have is you have these Haitian refugee camps that have sprouted up all over, many of which the government brought them to man sugarcane fields, et cetera. And so they're very, very, very impoverished areas. We visited one this time that I had not been to, which was on the other side of Esperanza, still Esperanza. 4,000 refugees live there. And I walked through and literally had to hold back tears. My son went with us this time. We normally try to take our children, and it was just unreal how these people are living.
So how were you led? How were you led to even go to the Dominican to?
It's interesting. I've always loved the Caribbean. I've always loved the Caribbean, but it was really one of those God moments where I was sharing my vision with someone. God really hadn't given me where to do it. And I had friends who've worked internationally. I have a friend who was in South Africa who I called and consulted with because she's a nonprofit. I wanted it to be somewhere that I could easily get to with my family and that wouldn't be terribly expensive. Having a family of 5, I was like, well, Africa's great, but that would cost a fortune. And I wanted it to be something we could do on a regular basis, annually. God connected me with someone here who's from the Dominican Republic as part of our congregation, and I told her my vision, and it was a God moment because she looked at me and she said, let's do it. And so I went the first time just with her to scope out the land and get a feel for the country because I'd never been, and it was just God. Her parents still own property there. They live here, but they go there often, and it was just like God sent me who I needed, and so I was ready.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I'm ready to help next year.
Yeah,
I'm on board.
it's fun, right?
Yeah.